Full color 3D printing has always been a dream, and now it's actually a reality with this new thing called Mosaic. This is Chris Labelle, you're one of the co-founders. You're going to show us how you made this crazy object.
Absolutely, John. So this object is made up of 3 different colors of filament. Normally a 3D printer will pull in 1 color of filament, melt it down, and build up, say, a purple pyramid. So what we did is we took purple filament, connected it to blue filament, connected it to orange filament, to feed it through the same printer head to turn a 1-color 3D printer into a multicolor 3D printer.
All right.
So this is what we call spliced filament. It's actually 4 different colors of filament, including glow in the dark. What happens here is that the palette, the product we've created, actually reads the file for the printer, and it breaks it down into different colored lengths of filament to say, we need this much red, followed by this much white, followed by this much glow in the dark to print the object.
My experience with 3D printers is this isn't really an exact science. Have you reduced it to an exact science, or what's the, how do you know that this is exactly how much we need?
Very good question. That was one of the problems we ran into, is that 3D printers don't always print the lengths of filament they're supposed to. So what we did is we created a feedback system. What happens is the palette measures all of the filament being printed, and there's a series of checkpoints in the G-code that are readable by what we call the scroll wheel. And what happens is the printer might print 9.8 meters of filament, but the palette thinks it's printed 10 meters. And what it'll say is that, oh, I'm here in the print, but I actually think that I'm here. So I need to adjust every length of filament going forward to bring the buffer exactly into calibration. So the setup sequence is very similar to that of a 3D printer. What you do is you turn the palette on, you select a seam print. So what that means is a multicolor 3D print. And what happens is you feed 4 filaments into the input side of the palette. It then goes to home those filaments exactly like the bed is homed on a 3D printer. The palette will then heat itself up and then create the initial length of filament. And at that point, it needs to be fed through the scroll wheel, because the scroll wheel is going to tell the palette how much more filament it needs to create. And then it'll go through the scroll wheel, you'll feed it into your extruder, and you'll extrude until you see the first color you want. So in this case, we're going to extrude until we see green filament.
So we saw how this works, but this, I think, is the best example of what you guys are doing here. So this was all printed with 1 filament, right? Essentially 1 strand of filaments. This is even wood down here on the bottom.
Exactly. This is actually a wood fill floor in the living room to simulate hardwood. So there's a whole bunch of new things you can do by adding colors, by adding filaments with different properties. And this was done on the same printer that printed this with our technology alongside. What happened here is that you had a blue filament connected to a conductive filament connected to a white filament. So inside of here, there's actually a conductive circuit connecting the battery to the LED.
So what's next? Because you guys have to start manufacturing these things.
We hit our goal in under 5 hours, and we hit $100,000 in under 12.
So for the folks at home, what did you guys do to get the word out about even the early birds? Because it seems like that's a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah, we've had a really great group of people following us since we started almost a year ago, and all of the early bird purchases came from that really strong following list. So, you know, the people who support us early, they've been such a help to get our campaign and our company to where it is. We really, really appreciate their support.
Yeah, super.